Your family abandoning you is one thing, but to come back years later and demand money from you? That's just another layer of hell in my opinion. G'day there guys, welcome back to another episode of r/AmITheA. It's your main man Markee, and if the like button has told you to give it some money, you better damn well go and beat the like button up right now. And if the like button fights back, I will hire lawyers to make sure that you get the best defense possible. Now with that out of the way, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn of the Barbie, and get ready for some bloody good content. Let's go. Posted by user NoJuggernaut9971. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my mother's hospital bills? So shortly after my 5th birthday, my dad found out that I was not biologically his. He immediately threw me and my mother out of his life, which now looking back, I can't really blame him. It would be a nightmare to raise someone who was a constant reminder of your wife cheating. Shortly after that, we moved from a mansion to a very small apartment, and my life has been absolutely lonely and horrible since then. The love that my mother had for me disappeared in an instant, and she and my half-siblings constantly blame me for being the reason for the divorce, have hated me since. I was constantly told by my own family, including my mother, that they all wish that I would die and would have never been born, and things like that. I try not to let my half-siblings' words get to me since they were kids as well, but it still hurts to this date. So my mother married my stepdad when I was 10, and he and his kids, my step-siblings, have made it very clear they didn't like me, and things got even worse. I was given the smallest room, no new clothes or things, and constantly ignored, if not being bullied by my family. Both my step-family and half-siblings went on great and fantastic trips, and were even given all the latest gadgets and everything as well, while I was left behind. It came to the point where no one had wished me even a happy birthday since I was 8 years old. I had no friends at school as well. I was that quiet kid who was always isolated and left out of everything. I, now 27 male, managed to get a full ride to a dream college, and am now financially quite secure. I now have very good friends and an amazing fiancé with whom I have a 3-year-old son, and her family has adopted me as one of their own. My fiancé also convinced me to go to therapy, for which I am very grateful as well, and I'm basically doing great in life and have moved past everything. Recently, my mother contacted me a few days ago saying she needed my help. Money, actually, 'cause she has cancer, and I firmly but politely refused her, saying that while I sympathize with her situation, it is not my responsibility, and she should lose my number and never contact me again. I am now hounded by my step-family and even my half-siblings that I shouldn't refuse, and my response was pretty much the same, and I've blocked them as well. Yesterday, my mother called me from her friend's phone this time, ordering me to pay her since she's sacrificed so much for me, to which I replied, "You never sacrificed anything. You gave away everything you had, you just couldn't keep your legs closed." And I then hung up on her. I have blocked them all. And now I just keep receiving messages calling me an a-hole among other things from new numbers, which I promptly block. But now occasionally I feel quite guilty. That what my mother did was horrible, yes, but no one deserves to die for such things. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my mother's hospital bill, even though it may lead to her death? I don't really know why you consider her your mother after all that she put you through, and then everything that she blamed you for on top of that. She really didn't do her duty as a mother here. She didn't even raise you properly. After you've, separated from her, you're free to do whatever the hell you want in this situation, and I won't call you an asshole for it. Obviously don't take that entirely literally, but Jesus Christ, what the hell? These people are the scum of the earth, they send their flying monkeys at you to start hurling crap. You dodge it, you block it all, they continue to come at you. This seems like a them problem. This is not a you problem in any way, shape or form, you are not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Vibrance in Bardo says, not the a-hole. You don't owe anything to your abusers, and everyone has to die eventually. It is no coincidence that they're trying to get back into your life at this precise moment when they need money and you have it. Please continue to enjoy the wonderful life you've built for yourself and leave these people behind. These are the same people who cry, but we're family! Why can't the rest of the half-siblings and step-siblings scrape up money together instead of dumping it on one person? For real. The OP needs to keep their head up and these people out of their lives, not the a-hole. That one is easily countered here by, you all wished I wasn't, and your wish has been granted. Goodbye. The hypocrisy is strong here. Every time my mother-in-law makes a new Facebook profile and tries to guilt my husband into talking to her because family, he says, you disowned me, so I'm not your son anymore. That means we aren't family, and he blocks her. Jammy913 says, not the a-hole. Sometimes your horrible mistreatment of your own children can come back to haunt you. I'd have said, pretend I was never born like you always wished for, and never call me again. Just like you wished I didn't exist, I really don't give a heck what happens to you now. Go ask the other kids you showed love to for money. It would be the ultimate revenge if you were able to develop some sort of friendly relationship with her former husband, who she cheated on. Just tell him that his success inspired you to be successful, and thank him for all that he did because he was actually the best parent you ever had. I don't know if that could lead to something nice, but it might. And OP replies, while your revenge does sound very good, my mother's ex-husband and I never talked again after the divorce, and he married someone that my mother never really knew, and has lived a happy life after that, which he deserves after what my mother did to him. Living a best life is the best revenge. I think there's no need to contact someone who's already moving on for 20 years for your own satisfaction. Block them all. Any text from them should immediately be deleted without even reading and blocked. Any call from an unknown number should be rejected. I get that having a revenge or last word in writing is satisfactory, but in real life it will only give them ammo to ask you for more. Silence is golden treatment for abuser. Our next post is by user MountainPhysics130, titled, Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my mother for crossing established boundaries? So I, 19 male, live with my parents. My mother has a few behaviors that set me off, and I've asked her multiple times not to do them. When she violates a boundary, I will typically use proportional behavior to enforce it. She uses baby talk with me after I told her to stop. When I have sandals on, she'll ask, got your slip-slops on today? I did not acknowledge the question and pretended I didn't hear it. When she repeated it a few times, I finally said, if you're trying to ask me a question, please do not baby talk me. I'm a grown adult, and if you use baby talk, I will assume you're not talking to me and ignore you. She will also volunteer me to do things without my permission. I will work all week, come home, look forward to my weekend, and inform me that she promised her friend I would help her clean out her attic on Sunday, or I'll find out that I've been volunteered to pick up relatives for family events. When I told her that if she did this again, the answer would be no, she freaked out and started screaming that she did nothing wrong. The other day, I wasn't feeling well. I had a stomachache, so I was in my room laying down. My aunt and uncle showed up at the house unannounced. I heard my mum and aunt outside the door, and my mum knocked. She wanted me to show my aunt a funny video on the computer. I told her I was laying down and I would send her the link. She kept knocking, told me not to be rude, and opened the door. So I had to go on my computer, open this video in my bedroom while my mum and aunt stood there. The whole time my stomach was bubbling. There were 3 bathrooms in the house. One in my parents' room, one off the hallway outside my room, and one downstairs next to the kitchen where my father and uncle were sitting. My stomach was getting worse, so I told my mother I was going to lay down. She told me not to be rude and told me to pull up another video. After about an hour, they finally left. At this point, I felt like I was going to explode, yet my aunt and mum stood right in front of the bathroom door and my parents' bedroom for another half hour. When they finally left, I bolted into the bathroom and experienced diarrhea. I cleaned myself up, sprayed, and left the fan on. I then went back into my room. 10 seconds later, I hear my mother yell, "Oh God, stinky! Someone made a stinky poopy in here!" She loudly sprayed, threw the window open and shouted, "Stinky, stinky!" I had it. I walked out and shouted, "Really? Do you have a crap fetish? Or are you just a total moron? Because I see no other reason that you would race in here 10 seconds after I used the bathroom and talk like you're an effing R-word." My relatives left right after. My mother is furious that I embarrassed her, and I told her that she started this by crossing my boundaries, and if she wanted to embarrass me, I had no problem taking her down with me. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I went nuclear on my mother after she violated my space when I didn't feel good, used baby talk on me, and embarrassed me in front of my relatives. It was definitely not proportional to what she did, and I know I made her look bad in front of my aunt and uncle. While I can understand your frustration because I know exactly how you feel, I know how that feels. And it absolutely seems that some people go out of their way to embarrass you. This is just life. Some people are just like that. And unfortunately, we continue to peddle the saying, you can't exactly control what happens to you, but you can control how you react. Now, in the case that you were going to react this way, you shouldn't have done it the way you did. You should have waited till your aunt and uncle were out of the house at least. I do feel like, absolutely, your reaction was not proportional to what she did, and you did make her, and yourself especially, look bad in front of your aunt and uncle. That's not to say that the blame is entirely on you. Your mother was doing this the whole time. She knows not to cross those boundaries. She knows what's okay and what's not okay, and she continues to do it. That frustration can just bottle up for so long and explode, like it has tonight, like it has with you. And you want to feel better after this, but doing that doesn't feel good, and afterwards it doesn't feel good either. It's just bad emotions all round. No one wins in situations like this. You and your mother both did wrong in this situation. You could have saved your ass by not using the R word. Completely socially unacceptable, that one. You could have gone about this in a better way, but you chose not to. So I'm gonna have to go with everyone sucks here. Now in the comments, Macaroni Rascal 42 says, everyone sucks here. She should listen to your boundaries, but your yelling and using the R slur is completely unnecessary. You both need to grow up. Your little birdie says, everyone sucks here. I was completely on your side until what you said, which was extreme and not necessary. But I think you should move out ASAP. Same here. The mum is weird for still talking like that, but the R slur was unnecessary. Mum needs to back off and OP needs to get out of there. And Webby Vanderquack says, everyone sucks here. Your mother shouldn't have blocked you from using the bathroom, but you need to just get used to the way that she talks. You can't give people a list of things that they do that annoy you and call them boundaries. It's not okay to hurl abusive insults at her, especially in front of others, and it's certainly not acceptable to use the word you used. Please stop using it. Our next post is by user SilverOpinion6171, titled, Am I the a-hole for siding with my child? Background. My husband and I have been together for nearly 6 years, married for 3. He has 3 daughters from previous marriages, 31, 26, and 15. And I have 3 children as well that are 21, 13, and 8. 2 boys and a girl, youngest. His oldest 2 live abroad, his youngest on the other side of the country, and my oldest is in the military. It's only my youngest 2 at home, and they're with us 85% of the time. Having 3 daughters, I don't think my husband has ever been around boys, and seems to have pretty much zero tolerance for anything my son does, unless it's exceptionally positive. For example, getting straight A's. They have little to no personal relationship. They never do anything together like have conversations, etc. It feels to me like my husband tolerates my son, at best. So recently, my husband noticed a scratch in our stainless steel refrigerator. He is convinced that my son made the scratch because he was unhappy about having to go to an RV show for several hours that day. Other than this hunch, he has no reason to believe my son did it, but he will not even entertain another explanation. I had a school assignment hanging on the refrigerator with a magnetic clip. I could have scratched it moving that around. I can sometimes clean a little aggressively. I may have scratched it while cleaning, or with my wedding band. It turns around backwards a lot. We have a very large dog who is food obsessed and likes to scratch at the doors if he senses food. He could have easily jumped up on the fridge if he smelled food. We had house guests just a few days prior who let their young children run amok and damage other things in our house. One of them scratched our leather bar stool with a fork. None of these possible scenarios will he even consider. He is absolutely convinced that my son, in his words, is sneaking out of his room in the middle of the night and scratching the refrigerator with a spoon or a knife. He wants me to confront and punish my son accordingly, even though he says he didn't and wouldn't do it. My husband has now installed a video surveillance camera in the kitchen to try to catch him in the act, and says he'll monitor him 24/7. He's also convinced that he sees a new scratch every day. He accuses me of making him feel crazy and not parenting my child. The very worst part is that my husband yells at my son over this, calling him a manipulative liar and a little F-word in front of my daughter and even our neighbor's kid. My kids see him yelling at me over this constantly, and it's just causing a lot of stress and strife. When I asked him how he would feel if he finds out my son isn't doing anything, his response is, "Well, then I was wrong." I don't know if we'll ever find out how the scratches happened, but this must come to an end somehow. Am I the a-hole for siding with my son? Am I being naive to believe that he's telling the truth? Yo, what the hell? I'm gonna have to go with everyone sucks here for this one just straight off the bat. He's obviously an asshole for what he's doing here. That is just straight up emotional abuse. But for you to continue to stay in this house with him, knowing that your husband is acting emotionally abusive and threatening physical abuse by the sounds of it, is that neglect? Is that willingly putting your son in a dangerous position and potentially yourself in a dangerous position? I don't want to victim blame. That is not what I'm doing, but you can't just continue to live with this man. That is dangerous. You need to leave. If you continue to live with this guy and continue to stay in contact with him, you're the a-hole for that as well. I know that's hard, but this is scratches on a fridge, and your husband is willing to attack both of you for this, by the sounds of it. So by you continuing to live there, you would continue to be an asshole for putting yourselves in danger. Get out. Everyone sucks here. Now in the comments, Shaking Clichés says, "This is not normal. This is not okay. Is he like this in other ways? Have you noticed other odd changes in behavior? An underlying physical or mental health issue could contribute to these kinds of swings. I don't know if he would agree to get checked out. This is not an emotionally safe environment for you or your son or the other children, and I'm worried things are going to escalate further. If you're in the US, you can call the domestic violence hotline to talk to someone about what's going on and to find resources in your area. Even if you don't consider what he's doing abusive, and even if this is related to some underlying other issue, they can help you make a safety plan just in case things get worse. They have an online chat here at thehotline.org. Info: why on earth are you still with a man who treats your child like garbage? I couldn't be with someone who only tolerates my kid. And he's progressed from tolerating to outright abuse. Yelling profanities at a child and setting up cameras to monitor them 24/7 is not an acceptable way to treat minors in your care. You're the a-hole, OP. If you don't put a stop to this, and your kid's father is in a position to take them, they won't be spending 85% of their time with you for much longer. Dazed Catwoman says, "Not the a-hole for siding with your child, but you're the a-hole for staying with someone who calls your child a little effer." Seriously, Mum? I remember my mother telling me that the worst part of her divorce wasn't guilt over breaking up the family, but the fact that I was so happy about it. It made her realize that she should have done it years sooner. And Glock Pony says, "You're the a-hole for keeping your child in this environment. You're enabling this abuse." And if you listen to nothing else, OP, listen to this. To this day, I have almost zero relationship with my mother because she allowed a man to verbally abuse me. Her love life was apparently more important than protecting me from that. I hated him, sure, but I hated her more. It was her job to protect me, and she didn't. I left the house at 18 and got into an abusive relationship just to get away from him. You go from what you know to what you know, unfortunately. I stumbled around and made a ton of bad decisions, and my life has been a roller coaster. I'm much more healthy and stable now, but I absolutely know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this man calling me lazy and stupid affected me profoundly and changed who I became. And our next post is by user Drugs vs. Meds, titled, "Am I the a-hole for asking my dad why he thinks his drugs are more important than mine?" I'm 17 female. I have a heart condition that requires medication that isn't cheap. It's just me and my dad at home, and my dad earns well. The bills are always paid. I have what I need, but he's got an expensive drug habit. Usually, he makes sure my meds are got first, but I guess this month he forgot. I asked him yesterday how he was going to get my medication after realizing how overboard he went, and he says he didn't know and that it was time that I figured it out. I reminded him I'm 17, with no job, and this could turn into a life or death thing fast. He repeated that it's time for me to find a way. This went back and forth for a while. Eventually I could see the guilt in his face and I snapped, and I said, "So why in the name of God do you think your drugs are more important than mine? Do you just not give a frick whether I live or die at this point?" I felt really bad about this, so I left to stay with a friend. My dad texted me this morning and apologized for the way he acted and the problem that he caused, but he said I'm an a-hole for the things I said to him last night. He thinks I should have been more considerate towards his issues and not think so selfishly. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Thank you so much for the overwhelming response. Just a few things. The medication isn't fully approved yet, hence why we've had to pay out of pocket. No, I will not be accepting any form of help from anyone offering, but thank you so much for even offering in the first place. I will not be calling protective services or the police on my dad. I'm slightly anti-cop, and this is the first slip-up he's made to this extent. If it does happen again, I will be looking for somewhere else to live. I will definitely be taking a look into some of the resources people have mentioned in the comments, as well as ringing my doctors to see what can be done. And edit 2, please do not refer to my dad as a junkie. Also, a few people have asked when the issues that are here started. About 4 years ago, after my mother died. He was always a weed smoker, but her death sent him down a nasty spiral that he hasn't managed to pull himself out of. Thank you for all of that extra information. I really respect that you're able to share all of this. Honestly, that's a really tough situation to have lost your mother at the age of 13, potentially even 12 years old. I can't imagine how hard that loss would be. But you've had to stick it out, and he's finding a way of coping with that loss that is obviously not healthy, and he continues to sink further into that hole. Your words, though, were able to put the fear of God back into him, and I'm absolutely sure he doesn't want to lose you as well. I think he's mixing up selfish with survival instincts here. You weren't being selfish, you're just trying to continue living. He chose his own escape over your ability to continue living and breathing. I'd say he's the one being selfish here. That's just projection? That's projection of his own insecurities, and he should feel bad for that? I'm not going to call him a junkie, but his addiction is definitely destroying his life by the sounds of it. And his addiction could have led to your death potentially. That's not something that weighs lightly on your mind. I don't blame you for yelling at him. That was justified. You didn't even personally attack him. I see nothing wrong with pointing out, hey, do you really think your drugs are more important than mine? Do you not give a crap whether I die? That's reality. That's not you attacking him. That is genuine reality, and he needs to accept that. Not the a-hole for what you said. Now in the comments, Copper Anode says, not the a-hole. His issue is that he's an addict. He is feeding his addiction potentially at the cost of your life, and most definitely at the cost of your trust. You are well within your rights to call him out, and you should continue to do so. As for your meds, is it possible to talk to your mother or any other family members for support? Being addicted is a legitimate issue and mental health problem. It doesn't really matter that it is self-inflicted. What makes Dad the a-hole is what he said about OP figuring it out. OP is 17. They don't need to figure things out. Dad needs to. Also, the dad is a huge a-hole for telling the OP that they are selfish when this is literally life and death for them. The dad is selfish and needs to get help with his addiction so he can help OP and provide the life-saving medicine until OP is actually able to handle it themselves when they're older and financially earning/stable. As an addict in recovery and the adult child of addicts in recovery, the two things, OP's health condition and the father's addiction, are not on the same level. I understand OP's situation from two sides, both as an adult with an addiction and mental health issues, and formerly as a child whose medical needs went unmet and neglected by my parents prioritizing their addictions. The father can seek help for his addiction if he hasn't already. OP is in treatment for his health problem, and it involves the medicine that OP's father considers less of a priority than his drugs, which are not medicine to him. One of these things is not like the other. If OP's father doesn't get his drugs, or enough of them, he has other options. OP does not. OP's father is an adult, OP is still legally a child, and the responsibility, legally and morally, of the father. Also, addiction being a legitimate medical and mental health condition doesn't preclude an active addict from being a bad parent. And Jammy913 says, not the a-hole. You simply stated the obvious. The way you describe it, your dad's drugs aren't required to save his life, right? Because he went overboard, it comes off that way. 17 years old is still a minor, and your parents shouldn't treat you like you're an independent adult. Hell, I'm in my 40s, and if I needed life-saving drugs, my dad would still buy them for me. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Friendly reminder that I'm now posting daily on my second channel, Markee 2. If you want to laugh at memes with me, link is down in the description below. On phone, you just click that little arrow underneath the video. I also want to say thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your names are currently floating down the screen here, and I love to see all of you guys. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you see yourself on screen, I want you to give yourself a big pat on the back for being amazing as always, and thank you for supporting me again. I do hope that you guys have a good day, night, sleep, whatever it is you're up to. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.